When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
And Hunter texted me one day. He said, "Dad, 1,000,000 pounds per acre." I said, "Okay, what about it?" He said, "If you can get 1,000,000 pounds per acre, whatever was there when you grazed it will come back twice as good."
Listen up, fellow sportsmen. Ever dream of hunting trophy bucks on sprawling ranches or casting a line in crystal clear streams? Landtrust.com makes those dreams a reality. They offer access to over 1 million acres of private land across the country, teeming with wildlife and untouched beauty. No more crowded public hunting grounds or overfished lakes. Landtrust connects you with responsible landowners who are passionate about conservation. You'll find a variety of listings, from majestic mountain hunting grounds to hidden fishing spots teeming with bass. Plus, Landtrust makes it easy. They handle all the booking and communication with the landowner, ensuring a smooth and hassle-free experience. Focus on what you love, the thrill of the hunt or the serenity of a quiet fishing trip. So head over to landtrust.com today and explore the amazing opportunities waiting for you. Landtrust, the Recreation Access Network, your gateway to unforgettable outdoor adventures. What do cows, regenerative farming, and the race to space have in common? More than you might think. Join host Brian Alexander as he welcomes his friend Richard Coomer for an episode that blends the practical with the truly visionary. We'll delve into the daily grind of ranching, the environmental impact of different practices, and how technology might be the unexpected key to a sustainable future. Prepare to be surprised. This is the Ranching Reboot Podcast.
Good evening, Richard.
How are you doing, Brian?
It's been a long day. You ever have one of those days where a part that basically costs nothing ruins your whole day? I had one of those. So it was, I call it a gate bail. Piece of wire that goes between the gate stick and the corner post to hold the gate closed, right?
I know the hook you're talking about.
Ever had one rust through?
I don't have any of those.
I had one rust through sometime in the last couple of days. Looks like maybe Friday. Of course, I was out of town all day Friday. Saturday, I just came out and I was working on a water system down on the south end. And as I drove past, I looked over there. Nothing seemed to miss. So I just went to the south end, worked on that water system. Yesterday was Sunday. I went out, I checked water. The other ones were on the creek. Like, okay, they'll be fine. Come out this morning and 2/3 of them weren't where they were supposed to be. So yeah, I had to go look and find the problem, and eventually found that gate had just decided it was going to be open.
It said, "See you next Tuesday. I'm checking out."
Yeah, it is what it is. I guess that's ranching, or that's what they say.
So I know you're dry, Brian, and I don't want you to get too jealous. But when you and I first actually talked a couple of years ago, I never thought too much water would be a problem I had to manage for.
That's a good problem to have.
Man, we've been so wet. Like, even moving the sheep as often as I am, I'm starting to notice some parasite problems.
Okay.
Which I don't have to care about those because of the way we're taking care of our sheep. All natural, if you will. But a couple of weeks ago, it rained and I didn't think nothing about it. And I got to talking to some people and I was like, man, I gotta go move the sheep. Before you know it, it's dark. Get out there, I can't find the sheep. There are two flooded creeks over.
Oh, crap.
So I'm like, well, here we go. I didn't bring the dogs. Start walking through the woods and call them. We get them all back to dry land. So I kept hearing these babies. It was the stupid frogs everywhere that were screaming. I'm thinking there's lambs. But yeah, we had 200 head of sheep trailing through the woods through 2 flooded creeks. And then you get on Facebook and everybody's like, "Well, what do you do to move your sheep, or how do you bucket train your sheep? Keep them hungry, man."
Okay.
It was I got to talk to Hobbs. Hobbs came up and did a seminar for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted
And
to try. I wish I could have made it down for that.
I enjoyed his seminar, and we can dig into that later. But just getting to visit with Hobbs, like yourself, Hobbs, and Michael Kinsey are probably the reason. I'm not going to say the asshole I am, but as advanced in the grazing that I am. And I respect the shit out of you guys. Of course, y'all all know that. But getting to hang out with Hobbs and have dinner with him, we went out and we're looking at the sheep after dinner, and he said, "What's wrong with that ewe right there?" And she had the bottle jaw, which is barber pole 101.
Okay.
I said, "Man, she's got a hell of a worm load right now." He said, "What are you gonna do?" "Nothing." I said, "It costs too much money to literally pin up 200 sheep with dogs, to transport them home, to doctor them, to turn them back loose." So I wrote down her ear tag. She survived. She'll be on the call list. And I've talked to some people locally, and they're like, "Man, that is the most cruel thing you could ever do." I was like, I want the genetic that's going to survive.
Okay.
And that's been our whole goal.
How many do you think you have with that problem?
Well, we pulled the middle of our ram lambs Saturday. So I gathered everybody up.
What do you mean
And
the middle?
so I kept the top 10% to rebreed with. And then I had some late lambs. So I pulled all the middle weights out, basically,
Okay.
the 40 to 60 pounders. And out of that group, I pulled the sick ones. There was 2 older ewes and 1 younger ewe that needed to be wormed. So we hauled them to the house with the lambs, wormed them, and kicked them out. So once they get healthy, they're gone. So there was 3 out of 80 adult ewes that needed immediate attention.
And they got the attention they needed.
They got the attention they needed, but because of my schedule, they can only get it when we can offer it. That's the issue, that everybody wants to coddle all of these animals. And I'm like, people, if your lives you have pets, they're not livestock at that point. If your lives revolve around taking care of that animal, it's a pet. You're never going to make money with a pet.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I was just thinking dog breeders might disagree, but I've seen some pretty gross stuff with dog breeders.
I guarantee you the majority of the dog breeders that I've been around treat their animals worse than I treat my sheep.
My dad's gotten 2 dogs. He got 1 dog. I mean, and she ran off. It's not that he wasn't taking care of her. It's just she got spooked one day and took off. And she was an older dog that had been a breeding dog. So for the next one, he got another retired breeding dog, but from I don't want to name the kennel because it's a nationally known kennel. Yeah, they have their bloodline is well known. And after seeing the behavior of this dog, I just almost have lost a lot of respect for anybody that keeps dogs in pens for breeding purposes.
The puppy mills.
Man, I mean, dogs aren't livestock.
Exactly.
They're either a working animal or they're a companion animal and pet.
Well, if they were a working animal and they meet my girlfriend Shelby, They are now a companion and pet.
You don't have any Great Pyrenees pets, do you?
No, no, no. But Shelby's always calling up the guard dogs every time we go out there. Hey, babies. And I'm like, just leave them alone. They get in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we like get 30 minutes into this, let's like talk about who you are for a minute.
Okay.
And where you're at and what you're doing. And if you want to talk about how you got there, you can do that too.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. So Richard Coomer, North Texas, Decatur area, actually. I spent a lot of time and a lot of years as slave labor for my uncle. And he had a cow calf operation, if you want to call that. I don't consider continuous breeding a cow calf operation anymore. But and he did a lot of hay, Brian. And when I say a lot of hay, I was 14 or 15 years old, and he still brags about it. We put up 10,000 round bales of hay that year, commercial. And my cousin and I cut all that hay. I had a 706 International open cab, and my cousin had a 4020 that he cut with. 9-foot swath at a time. My uncle put up 10,000 bales of hay. And he shook my hand and he said, "Thank you." And that was my ticket to know that there was never going to be any money in farming for this guy. So I joined the military. I was in the Navy for 8 years on submarine and got out. Yeah, bubblehead. Got out and chased the oil field around, and Hunter taught me into getting some cows, my son. And we tried it and we lost our asses, Brian. We buying hay and didn't know what to do. And I was traveling the country building wash plants, and I found TikTok. And in TikTok, I found two guys with beards, actually. And they were both out there. And I'm like, man, these guys are full of shit. They have no idea what they're doing. Well, one of them had a podcast. We won't name any names, but I started trying shit off in the corner. And it worked. I'm like, So we started trying to finish some grass-fed beef and go that big dollar marketing and everything else. And I realized I don't like people. I don't like being in front of people. I don't like trying to sell people or anything. It's just not my thing.
Not everybody's cut out for it.
The cows actually got out one day, Brian. And you've been down here. One of my properties is about 3 miles from the sale barn. And they got out and headed that direction. So I let nature take its course, and that's where they found a home at.
Just got in front of them, opened the gate, and encouraged them to run right into the sale barn.
They called Mickey and said, "I'm bringing you a load." He said, "When are you going to be here?" I said, "They're crossing the road right now." And we got out of cattle. And I miss cows because everybody wants to be a cowboy. That's the quintessential cowboy. Everybody wants to be a cowboy. And I've done my fair share of cowboying. But everybody's a cow expert. Everybody. If they got 2 or 200, they're a cow expert. Their grandpa knows everything there is to know about cattle. So we bought sheep. Nobody knows anything about sheep. All the people up in Oklahoma I know, they call them pasture maggots. But everybody has seen sheep, and everybody has heard stories about how the ranch was paid for by sheep, and then the son got cattle, and then the grandson lost the ranch.
I've heard that before, I think.
Well, going back to my uncle, when he sold my grandpa's home place and moved to Oklahoma, that's when I started really questioning, why couldn't he make it work right here? Wise County used to produce more grade A milk than any other county in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And now we can barely produce 2 bales an acre on hay.
Is there even a dairy left?
There is one active ADA dairy, and the old lady's like 97, and the only employee she has is her mentally handicapped son, and they only milk enough to supply their contract to Chipotle. 20 years. Took them 20 years to kill the dairy industry here. And that was mining their nutrients and not replacing them. And that's where I'm in the regenerative scene at is I've watched this county be very profitable in farming to now it's very profitable in farming houses. And it makes me sick, but we built a business model out of the hobby farms and the house farming around here. Is we got some small hay equipment and just keep it rolling.
Maybe let's talk about that. Maybe some other ideas that you've thought of to, how do you say it? Like, I want to say mine the miners or farm the farmers. How are you mining those new? Damn it, I don't have a word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm getting at.
Let's back up a few episodes. You remember when you and Kinsey were talking about the urbanization of America?
Yeah.
That really hit home with me, and that's when we got into the hay business. And what used to be a section or a quarter section of land that had two 16-foot gates on it is now 10-acre tracts with 10-foot gates. So I got to thinking, what size of equipment would I need to be able to get in that 10-foot gate?
Okay.
And if I could put all 10 of those tracts of land back together, I'm still farming 100 acres, just doing it 10 acres at a time. And I really got out and the tax exemption people, the county ag people, ag exemption, they've gotten to where if a property changes names, they instantly revoke the ag exemption.
That's probably not a bad idea.
Which is a good thing because the taxpayers, I hate paying taxes. I'm just as libertarian on taxes as you are.
Well, taxation is theft.
Taxation is theft. But when they're using a piece of land and calling it agricultural exempt, and there's nothing but brush growing on that place, when there's guys like myself that are just trying, I don't own any land. I own this little spot here in town, and we got about 200 acres leased. But my biggest lease is 60 acres. So I would approach these people and help them get their tax exemption back. Put livestock on their land, put up some electric netting and run sheep through there once a year. It's being utilized, or cutting bale hay, or goats. Goats are great. And we even rent some cows on some people's places for them. And that was how we started building our numbers up, Brian. We might only be able to put 20 sheep on a place all year long, but we can put 100 sheep there for 20 days. And utilization has been the key. When I get my helper back, we're really going to start hammering some places.
Your helper that's on the other side of the Atlantic?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We can talk about him later if you want to.
So that's a whole story in itself. Because you and I both got to go on some deployments, and he kind of looked at his trip as a deployment. So
I could see that.
But we're expecting another 5 million people in North Texas in the next 3 to 5 years.
Where are you going to put them all? I mean, they're just going to have to kind of continue building town west.
Yes.
I remember driving down Interstate 35 and there being like, as you go down 35 to the south, it's like there'd be a gap and then you'd hit Oklahoma City. And then there's like there's like wheat fields, and then you're in Norman. And then there's some more wheat fields, and then you're in, Paul's Valley, and then some more trees, and then you're in Ardmore. Now it's like from the time you get about 30, 40 minutes north of Oklahoma City, just south of Ponca, it's like town from there forever.
Town or casino.
Yeah,
nonstop.
Town or casino, nonstop. And man, when you get across the Red River, there's nothing. Like going down 35, you got to get way west of 35 before it feels country.
Brian, the first real open land you'll see from the casino in Oklahoma, so exit 2 in Oklahoma, you can't get to any open territory until you're just north of Waco.
And that's
And,
quite a
and
ways
that's
west
good.
too.
That's good corn country, and that's the only reason that place hasn't been broke up and sold off. But all this mediocre land up here that was really only good for grazing is now housing. And when I say houses, they're putting 150 acres. They'll come in and subdivide it all up, hire major contractors, and do a master planned community through it. But now the state of Texas is making them build a school if they have over 100 homes.
Well, that's probably good.
Yeah, our school system's completely overwhelmed.
Well, yeah. I was just thinking, probably most people that listen to this podcast that don't live like Western Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Eastern Colorado, kind of like the core of the plains. I think almost everybody is experiencing what you're talking about for the last
Absolutely.
4 years.
Yes.
And because of COVID kind of shifted around people resettlement patterns, a lot of people apparently woke up to West Coast politics and said, we're out of here, evacuated California for Texas. And kind of glad they didn't come here, honestly.
Well, they already own everything big enough to own there with your absentee landowners.
I guess that's true. And there's just not that much water here.
Right. And the infrastructure that they demand, they only move to spots that have 5G, Brian. So just make sure they never put up a 5G tower anywhere near you and you're good.
I actually have a 5G tower on my ranch. And then there's one 2 miles west and another one 2 miles east. So but it doesn't matter because I don't have cell service in the bottom of a canyon. If I get off a ridge top, my phone just goes dead.
Hey, brother, as soon as you see the Starbucks and the Target, it's over. It's over. You might as well pack it up.
Well, it's still 20 miles to a Dollar General, so I'm okay.
Yeah, it's been, and looking back over the years, it's phenomenal. Like I remember you could go to a restaurant as a kid here in town, and you might not know everybody, but 75% of that people in there would shake your hand because you knew each other, you went to church with each other, you worked with each other. Nowadays, it's bad.
I was in town last week. We went to the Mexican place, grab a bite to eat because we didn't feel like cooking, and had to run to the grocery store afterwards. And we kind of debated whether we'd go to Medicine Lodge or Pratt. It's like, let's go to Medicine Lodge. It's, it'll be a little bit quicker of a trip. Well, it's only a quicker trip if you don't run into anybody that wants to talk to you. I ran into one of my chatty-eared neighbors, one of the guys from, he lives in Lake City. And yeah, that was that. And then we're going to the grocery store. And this elderly gentleman who I knew, and I greeted him by name because they were also eating at the Mexican restaurant and then had to go to the grocery store. He looked me dead in the eye and goes, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. You look familiar. So I told him who I was. He goes, oh, now I know. He says, well, I haven't seen you in a while. I said, well, I don't really come to town, but maybe once a week, if that. He goes, oh, good policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah.
And that's what I tell Shelby. I said, I've worked way too much of the last 25 days. And I think I've spent more hours in the tractor than I've spent in the house. And she's like, why are you working so hard? I was like, because I want to get out of here. I want to flee the place I've called home my entire life. And Sun City, Kansas is looking awful good, Brian.
Well, I mean, real estate's still cheap. There's still a couple of houses for sale that might need some work. I think you saw a couple of them last time when you were here. It's not a bad part of the world if you can tolerate wind 350 days a year.
Well, you got to get a kite flying hobby.
We'll see how that goes.
So it's she needs the Starbucks, not so much the Starbucks, but she needs the entertainment. She needs to be close to her family. So it's a struggle, you know, in what we're gonna do and what we want to do. But I want to be ready when the opportunity presents itself.
And that I was kind of go there. Like, clearly you're getting ready to jump. Have you looked at where you're going to try to land yet?
It'll probably be up around Ardmore somewhere. Because my town job, I may get to transfer to Oklahoma with my town job, still be employed in the state of Texas, so I don't have to pay Oklahoma taxes
Yeah.
because I don't want them stealing any more than they already do. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to shake out with that. Nothing confirmed yet, but Oklahoma is where I'm looking. I'd really love to go up and live near Sean and Jerica just to get to hang out with them. But
that's like Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Ponca City, yeah.
So for those that are bad at geography, that's kind of like north central Oklahoma.
If you look at it on the map, it's exactly a straight line 4 hours north of me up 82.
Okay.
And it's weird. So that makes you 6 hours north and an hour west. I like the geography of it anyways. But yeah, Brian, I've been working stupid hours in a tractor that I absolutely hate doing.
Okay.
But I've noticed it's gotten me out in front of people. Been cutting a lot of hay, and people want to know how to make their hay better. And I tell them to stop cutting and baling it.
And they're probably looking at you like, you make
Like
a living cutting hay, and you're
Right.
telling me to make it better to stop cutting it?
So I asked them, I said, you know, do you fertilize? And, oh, yeah, we fertilize, or we wheat kill or whatever. And I said, have you done a soil sample? Have you done any soil testing on your plate? Well, no, I just buy what the feed store sells me. Well, you're probably spending way too much money on crap you don't need. So, and I've gotten some people to actually do some soil testing on their places. And I tell them, if you don't want to buy fertilizer, you can stop buying weed killer. How the hell is that possible? I said, if you guys will plant veg, heavy veg, you'll have all the nitrogen you need. And guess what? We can cut and bale the veg. It's really good hay. And if it has seed pods on it, it's got so many minerals in it, animals will just slick off just eating veg. Well, I've heard it can be toxic. And then I quote Brian Alexander and say, well, water can be toxic at such high quantities.
I mean, it's true.
I talked to these city people that have moved here from California. I cut 60 acres for a guy yesterday. He said, man, when I bought this place, the veg was 4 foot thick around here. I said, and now you use weed killer and haven't seen veg since. Well, yeah, I want the Bermuda grass. Because if you go down to our county extension office, they tell you the only way to make money farming in Wise County is to plow it, nuke it, sprig it, nuke it, cut it, fertilize it.
Seems like an awful lot of diesel fuel and an awful lot of inputs.
Absolutely. Bermuda grass is like the highest input requirement forage available outside of alfalfa.
Call me crazy, but I mean, where you're at, you're basically straight south and just a little bit east of me.
Yes.
A little warmer, a little more rain. You should have the same grass.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we should.
So is there anywhere around, or anywhere you manage, hopefully, that has anything resembling native grass?
Nothing.
So can you even go find any?
I can go find some on my place that I've been taking care of for 3 years now. I've got some big blue and little blue coming back. I've got, believe it or not, so here's story time. You ready? I have a lot of thistle, a lot. And everybody's like, man, you need to mow them thistles. You need to burn them. You need to 2,4-D their asses. You need Roundup out here. You need to get rid of them thistles. Well, the only reason I have thistles this year is because I was late getting the sheep out there, and I didn't get them before they got spiny. But I left a patch alone for 3 solid years, Brian. And on the 4th year, when they actually fell over, I got to looking and I took a picture and I couldn't believe it. It was Eastern gamma grass.
Really?
I was like, this is Johnson grass. So I took pictures of it, had a guy come out. He looked at it. He's like, well, it looks a lot like Johnson grass. We came back in 2 weeks. He's like, nope, that's Eastern gamma grass.
Well, that's cool.
Where the thistles were growing, where the dairy cows would have walked every single stupid day back and forth to that dairy barn. It's so I don't mess with the thistles anymore. I just want to see what happens.
I wish I knew the secret to growing Eastern gamma grass.
What moisture?
I just must not get enough.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Adam, my friend Adam Isaac's out there in Canadian Texas. He tells me he's got Eastern gamma grass. Canadian Texas.
That would be, and Brett Pescick, the guy that did the cover crop seminar there for us. He's an offspring of your buddy Dale's. And I guess him and Dale or him and somebody are working on a project over just east of us, hour or two east of me. And they are inoculating Eastern gamma grass and planting it with worm cast.
That's probably a good idea.
I'm curious to see how that comes up for them. And they're really focused on Eastern gamma grass right now.
I bet you that won't be bad. I bet you it'll work.
Oh, I'm sure. And the cost of establishment of Eastern gamma grass. Here, hold on. Let's back up, Brian. You asked if there was any grasses, native grasses left in here. No, they are not, because you have to actually manage native grass. You cannot just turn 100 cows loose on 150 acres of native grass and expect to have any grass.
Not if you just leave them there.
Which is what people do in this part of the country. You got your bull, you got your cows, you go out twice a year and you pull off some calves. You don't know who they belong to or how old they are. They fit the bill and you go make a payment. That's Wise County pasture management.
I think that's pasture management for most of the country, honestly.
It makes me
unless
sick
we're
at this
talking about
point.
big ranch country out here in the West.
Yep.
I think that's the reality for most of it.
And you tell people, it's only going to get. So we were driving around, Shelby and I were driving around this past weekend, moving equipment or whatever. And I told her, I said, look at those Charolais. She said, they look good. I said, even Charolais look good this year. Last year, go look at those cows last September. You could count every rib on their body. There was nothing left for them. We got plenty of grass, and everybody around here has always expected plenty of grass. And I've learned to manage. June 1st, I know exactly how much grass I need to last the rest of the year, and I can sell before prices drop in July. I've learned how to do that, and I don't have to worry anymore.
How'd you learn how to do that?
Well, I've spent some money on an education, Brian, and not a formal education. I've bought a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of people talk on the radio. And when I say talk on the radio, I drive between
All
jobs
day. Yeah.
for a living. 8 hours of driving is not uncommon for me. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of books on tape. And I've spent a lot of money and hours on an education to allow me to be able to go out and look at my pastures and say, well, I've got 100 sheep days left, or I've got 300 sheep days left. And add 10% and make some cuts. But nobody's perfect, right? I cut and bale hay. I don't want to say as a living. I cut and bale hay as a hobby that makes money because my son needed a job and then left me to do it without him. But anyways, We put up 30 bales of hay for 100 head of sheep last year. We fed 12 of them.
Pretty good margin.
And then I got to thinking, I can way overstock on sheep because I need the density. So I can get these hobby farmers to give me 2/3 of their hay if I cut and leave a third there so the tax guy has something to look at when he comes around. Way overstock my places on sheep and get the density to where I'm actually lifting the brush back up. And lifting the brush is where I started seeing the native grasses come back. An old mesquite pile that the cows hadn't messed with in 20 years. They were just picking the grass that would grow out of it, run the sheep through there and destroy it. And now we've got some big blue stem coming up in places.
That's pretty cool.
So it's been I don't like doing soil tests. I don't like measuring with an outside source. I like to be observation is how I like to operate. So the more tips and tricks I can pick up by just observing something, the better off I am having real data.
You don't want a soil test because you don't want to buy anything.
Right. Why buy it?
And the thought just occurred to me, and maybe that's why I haven't done a whole lot of soil testing either. Like, and I get asked that a lot, almost every time the new soil sampling firm comes to a conference I'm at. Always like, hey, have you thought about grid soil sampling? Like, yeah, I sure have. What's it cost to do that on 7,000 acres of pasture?
Right.
And they start going, yeah, what you're talking about is really cool, buddy, but it has absolutely no practical use for me because I'm not going to buy anything to spray on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm not okay. If I added some NPK or some N over here or some potash over there, it might help with this weed. Okay, well, why is that fucking weed growing to begin with?
Macaulay Kincaid would say the weed's telling you something. The weed is
Absolutely.
telling you that the soil needs something.
Absolutely. And can I deliver that on a 150-pound U package? We'll find out. And that's how we're running it. And my landowners won't even build a fence, much less pay for a soil sample. And I'm not going to invest money into their property if they're not willing to take that benefit and use it.
And I think what you just said right there, the landowner's not willing to make the investment because they can't see it. Is a lot of it's because they can't see the value. You know, why do I want to do this? This costs money. Or it's not going to look as pretty. Getting the owner involved is like, that's always the hardest step.
Yes, it is. And that's Hunter's main mission when he gets back is let's start talking about Hunter here for a little while.
Yes.
So he has, have you talked with Alex Johnston?
Not in a couple of years.
Okay, well, that's who he's working for right now or interning with.
Okay, and Alex was previous guests on the podcast.
Yes.
Talking about that was, gosh, I want to say that was probably like almost 100 episodes ago.
Yeah, Alex like completely moved across the country to go do regenerative agriculture with landowners that wanted to improve their land. And so Hunter has been over there since February helping Alex, and they've been moving sheep a lot. They've been moving cattle a lot, and Hunter's got that down. But what he's been inspired by is what they've been able to do with that land and how amazing it is. And Hunter texted me one day. He said, Dad, 1 million pounds per acre. I said, okay, what about it? He said, if you can get 1 million pounds per acre, whatever was there when you grazed it will come back twice as good. And so he's really wanting to come home and start playing. And he wants to go around and talk to these grass farmers, these coastal and Bermuda grass guys, and convince them that if he'll run livestock, or they will run livestock on their hay pastures, they can improve their yield by 20% just by adding the manure.
I believe it works.
And if you do it with sheep, coastal Bermuda starts growing when ground temperature gets like right at 64 to 68 degrees. So it comes on, but you have all these cool season grasses that everybody calls weeds that they spray pre-emergent on. Hunter wants to start using sheep as a pre-emergent. Oh. And I love seeing the kids so inspired.
Million pounds an acre.
That's what they try to target over there.
How often are they moving?
4 times a day.
That's 250,000 pounds an acre, like kind of calculated out. I think that's I think 4 times a day is the only way to get 1 million pounds.
It is. And I think Hobbs and Michael will both agree with that. It is 4 or even 5 times. And when Hobbs was down here, he was talking about, I think he's added a 5th move onto his cows. I think he's given them a lot larger paddock in the evening because they weren't getting completely full, and he was losing some body condition. So even Hobbs, has adjusted his grazing.
Well, I mean, everybody. I'm always adjusting.
And that's the greatest thing about this regenerative agriculture. Just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Whereas in, how are we going to call it? I'm not going to call it traditional because the way people are farming around here has only been here for 25, 30, 40 years.
Just call it what it is. It's industrial farming.
Industrial agriculture, collegiate agriculture. There's
the agriculture that feeds the techno-fascist oligarchy that controls the country.
In so many words, sure. But yeah,
might as well call a potato a potato.
There's a textbook out there, and if you're not following the textbook, you're going to fail. Well, there's nothing. Everything will work if you can get rid of all the variables. In nature, all we have is variables to work on. Last year, I was in the same drought you were in, and now I'm flooded up this year.
I haven't really looked at the Drought Prediction Center or the Climate Prediction Center for about a week because it's pretty much been raining for 2 weeks.
Nice. I'm glad you're getting some moisture.
We've got ponds are running. Creeks are okay. Grass looks great. We're still a little bit behind, though. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head how much. But
I won't feel bad telling you got 10.5 inches in 7 days.
That's excessive.
I didn't have any gullies washed on my place. I had plenty of runoff, but no trenches cut across my pasture or anything like that. You can't go out there and find topsoil. I didn't sell any or give any to my neighbors either. So I've cut plenty of pastures this year that have 3-foot trenches washed across them.
And you'll probably be back to cut them next year.
I'm actually trying to sell some customers on using a RanchWorks aerator because I want to buy one.
Okay.
But I gotta make sure it'll pay for itself before I ever put the order in.
Okay. We were talking about Hunter.
Okay, Hunter. So you and I both deployed. Of course, I was on a boat and you were on a target, but we both deployed.
Yeah, it's a different experience.
And when Hunter, before he left, so he moved to Florida. Last hay season was over. He decided, I'm going to go surf. I'm going to be a beach bum. Literally packed all of his shit in his car and drove to Florida. Not even having a job. The coolest thing I think anybody could do as an 18-year-old kid is just leave and go find your way. Ended up getting a job as like an appliance repair guy, and doing good and going surfing all the time. And I had seen this post on Facebook for Alex looking for interns, and I sent it to him, and Hunter called me. He said, "Why'd you send that to me?" I said, "Well, I figured it might be something you liked." He said, "No, I laid awake last night trying to figure out how I could go travel the world." I said, "Agriculture, son. That's the way you go travel the world. That's one skill that you can use on any continent, agriculture." So he applied and got accepted, and he come home like 2 weeks before he went to come home from Florida before he went to Scotland. And he asked me, he said, "Dad, I know you're in the Navy. I know you're in Scotland." He said, "I would rather find out I have a brother the right way than a sister the wrong way." So
That's a
he's
fair
been
question.
he's been humming along over there, doing his thing. And there's two other interns working with him, and one of them's really good, and one of them doesn't have any stock sense. And he was gonna extend and stay, and like he wanted to go run with the bulls and everything. And finally, he's decided he's just gonna come home. He's ready. He's learned all these skills, Brian, and he's ready to come home and start theory to practice and all this shit.
He thinks he's learned some.
Yes,
Okay.
but he hasn't learned how much he doesn't know yet. And that's what I'm excited to see.
He won't figure that shit out till he's in his 30s. Trust me.
Well,
When
so
did you figure it out?
I got a phone call one morning, Brian. You'll like this. It was like 4:30 in the morning, and my phone's ringing, and it's this +44 number. And I answer it. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Dad, your credit card is locked out. My debit card's locked out. I spent all my money drinking, and I don't have no way to get back to the farm." I said, "Well, hold on." And he hadn't used his credit card or his debit card there yet. So as soon as he punched in his PIN number, it flagged as fraud. It's in another country.
Right.
Same thing with the credit card I sent him with. Because I told him, I said, "Make sure your bank knows you're going overseas and everything else." "Oh yeah, Dad, whatever. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about." So I said, "So tell me the story." He said, "Let me book a train ticket and I'll call you on the train." A little while later, he calls me. He said, "I went out drinking Friday night. I went out drinking Saturday night. And then Alex wanted to go drinking on Sunday night. Legal drinking age in Scotland's 18. Hunter's 19. Well, he got separated from the group." I said, "So what you're telling me is you found a girl?" "Yeah. And we took a taxi back to her dorm." He said, "Then I woke up and had no idea where I was." I said, "Where were you?" He said, "Well, I was in Edinburgh." He said, "But I tried to get online to book a train ticket and my phone died." So he has no map. He has no GPS. He's in Edinburgh, Scotland, somewhere. And he could see the peak of the castle. And he knew the train station was somewhere near there. So starts walking, walked like 7 miles, finally found a coffee shop that would let him charge his phone. And that's where he called me from. So
At least he was somewhere where he could speak the language and be understood.
yes, yeah. He didn't wake up in Bahrain like he. But I messaged Alex, his boss, as soon as he called me on Facebook. I said, "Hey, Hunter's okay." I said he didn't have any money, whatever. Alex is like, "I'm not worried." I said, "Well, I hope you are. I hope you chew his ass out." He said, "Oh no, don't worry about that," because Alex was in the Royal Marines, I guess.
Yeah.
So he gave Hunter the whole missing movement speech and everything else, and got on him pretty hard there for a couple of days. I was like, life lessons, boy. There you go.
Got to learn those early.
So he's something else. I tell you, I called him the other day. So let me back up. He texted me. He said, "Dad, I screwed up." I said, "What do you mean, Hunter?" Like, I thought he messed something up. He said, "Well, I didn't want a relationship. but I think I found one. I said, so are you calling me or texting me to tell me that you're staying? He's like, no, I'm not going to stay. And she can't come with me because she's in the Scottish army. I said, it'll be fine, son. Just be truthful with her. He's like, yeah, Dad, but she's really cute. I was like, is she funny? She's like, yeah, she has a sense of humor. I said, then at least you have a benchmark going forward. He's like, benchmark? I was like, you know what a good woman can treat you like. You know what a girlfriend should feel like. I said, you have a benchmark. I said, just make sure I don't have no grandkids. But yeah, he's had a hell of a time, Brian. And that's why I relate it to a deployment, because he's worked his ass off a lot. But he's been able to enjoy himself and go see some culture that 90% of the kids in America will never get to experience.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, there's people that would never leave their city.
Yes.
I mean, there's people that have no idea that, well, of course, we all know there's people that think the food just magically falls out of the back of the truck, right?
Walmart, man.
And
that's where it comes from.
And all they, when they hear about Kansas and Oklahoma and Colorado, they just think, oh, flyover country. Great. Stay in your airplane. We don't need you here.
Exactly. So what about you? What's new? Any new cars?
No, not lately. I bought a new tractor. It got delivered this morning.
Brian Alexander has a tractor.
Yes.
What does Dad say about that?
I don't care.
Well, no, I know you don't care, but I know the stories of the old wore out Massey Ferguson. So I'm really curious about the new tractor.
It is a Kubota BX23. So it is the smallest tractor Kubota makes. It's got a little baby front end loader on it. I've got a little baby 4-foot bush hog for it and a little baby backhoe for it. And it's for
the
here.
house.
It's for the house.
Awesome.
That's Tanya wanted it. And the skid steer is spending way too much time here, moving things around in the yard and tearing up the yard way too much.
Those honeydews get expensive, don't they?
It just turned into okay, I'll do this and then you can do all your own jobs because I need my skid steer back. So yeah, I bought her a tractor so you get my skid steer back, kind of.
Nice. Shelby was griping at me because I don't believe in mowing the yard. I want 6 foot tall big bluestem in my front yard. Well, it's been real wet this year and we have some sandburrs. And she's like, we need to get a lawnmower. I really don't want to buy a lawnmower. I don't want to push mow the yard. I went to an auction and I bought a 60-inch 0-turn lawnmower for like $500. It wouldn't start. Dead battery, whatever. I jump it off, drive it on the truck, get it home, it's running like crap. And I have another old junky lawnmower that people have been robbing parts off of for years. Go out there, got a bent push rod on the one I bought. Go steal a push rod out of the other one, slap it in, fire it up. Shelby's got her a 60-inch 0-turn now to mow the yard with.
Nice.
I don't want to mow the yard. I don't believe in mowing the yard.
I just got attacked by a dog.
You need a blue heeler. You want me to send you a blue heeler?
No, I have something that's a blue heeler is just a Belgian Malinois that smokes unfiltered cigarettes, drinks bottom shelf whiskey, and lives in a single wide.
Absolutely.
This dog we have, Tanya found this dog. You've got to come up and meet her. She's insane. Okay, so her dad is a blue heeler, Catahoula cross. Her mom is Border Collie and Australian Shepherd.
We're going to hurt something and we're going to hurt it fast.
All of the energy, the attention span of a turnip.
Man,
all the energy, all the speed. There's a chunk of wood that's like half the size that she is. She will go grab onto it and drag it around the yard. She drags around like we had a windstorm a week ago. So I got everything cleaned up. Like she'll drag a branch that's like 7 feet with leaves and shit. Like she drags things backwards. It's always wonderful. We come, like, if she's been outside unsupervised for any length of time, it's always interesting to see what treasures she has brought us to the porch.
They never drag them out of the way. They drag them to you.
She hasn't started retrieving dead things and bringing them as offerings on the front porch. That's okay. If a receipt piece of paper falls on the floor, she turns it into confetti.
Nice.
Yeah. She's a lot of fun. A lot of fun and a huge terrorist and a giant pain in the ass.
So you got to meet Rue when you were down here, right?
Yeah.
The red dog. So that was Kenzie's dog. And there is that guy, something about him. He knew I was gonna try to breed her to my other border collie. And it wasn't 2 days after they finally locked up. He's texting me. He said, "Hey, we gonna have any puppies out of Rue?" I was like, "How did you know? Like what's going on?" I called him. I said, I wasn't gonna say anything to you until I get her to the vet. I said, but good chance we're gonna have some puppies. Like, how did you know? And I feel bad for the guy. You know, he gave me that dog because she was getting a little aggressive around the children. And I can't even send him pictures. I'm sure he cries every time he sees a picture of her on Facebook or something. But we're gonna make him feel better. We're gonna send him a puppy and a couple of lambs to Georgia this fall.
Okay. I was gonna ask, I mean, do we have puppies?
Well, we'll find out. We haven't got her to the vet yet, but she's acting like she's pregnant. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, I tell Shelby all my friends live on the internet. And she just thought I was joking. And then she met you guys when we went up there and met the Lockwoods. And now she's met Hobbs. And she hears me on the phone with Michael all the time. And she's met Adam. And she's like, "You weren't joking. All your friends really do live on the internet." Like, absolutely.
And all my neighbors think I'm weird as shit.
Yes. So speaking of that, Shelby got to go to dinner with Hobbs when Hobbs was here. And she said, "Man, it would be nice if all of y'all lived closer to each other." I said, "No, it wouldn't." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "For one, we would never get anything done. And then we would wind up in an argument." She said, "I don't understand." I said, "How many of us have y'all met? Have you met? Like, you've met Brian, you've met Adam, you've now met Hobbs. Is there a little bit of ego or arrogance with any of those folks?" And she's like, "Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't even think about that." I can't imagine yourself, Trevor, me, Hobbs, and Michael having a supper club.
Well, I think it'd be a great time. I mean,
Solve all the world's problems.
yeah. I think more to the point why we all don't live in the same area is because we can't.
There wouldn't be enough room for us all.
No, because if we all lived in the same area, our thinking would be more similar.
Bingo.
And that's why we're all friends, is because we're 80% similar. We're 75% similar. And
we all operate on the same principle.
Same principles, but there are enough variables changed and there's enough geographic distance. We're not in competition. We never will be.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any secrets. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not even in competition with my neighbors. I mean, and as soon as I feel the pressure of competition, I'll find a new niche to go occupy. I've got a pretty good niche right now. And there's not a lot of competition for it. I don't need to compete with my neighbors.
Right.
I don't need to have a wiener measuring contest. Mine's smaller. Get over it. Fuck, I don't care. I'll lose. Just
race to the bottom.
It's a pointless exercise because we
Yes.
can always invent something else that, we're better at, or, we can always come back next year and invent new metrics.
And so you got to come down and go to, when Steve was here, you came down and hung out with us at our North Texas Regenerative Producers Workshop, or whatever we're calling it, and got to meet some of my local folks here. And that was based on a principle of bringing community together. But even those people there, there's very few of nobody's doing it on scale, except maybe TJ. But there's so few of us.
Time out. You have a great group there. Okay, you have the seeds of a great group.
Yes, and that's
Here's the thing. I go to a lot of meetings, a lot of conferences, a lot of field days, tours.
Yep.
Like not so much this time of year because I'm busy trying to keep cattle trained and water systems and fences, and hopefully July I'm going to go on the No Till on the Plains bus tour up to North Dakota. It's supposed to be just
nice.
an awesome ride of a time. Aaron's saving me a seat on the bus, so I'm going to try to make that happen this year. But what I'm getting at is, like, your group's fine. There's nothing wrong with your group. Like,
Well,
nobody does it at scale. Like, the people that do this shit at scale, you probably already know most of them.
right. That's the thing, though, is they're interested. They want to do it. It's almost,
They haven't accepted the change in thinking yet.
and they're shameful, or they're afraid that their neighbors will throw shame at them. And I guess that's what I'm getting at. That's the issue I'm having to break and build their confidence, basically, that it's okay to do it this way.
It's
And
okay
a lot of my hate customers,
It's okay to be weird.
like Brandy came down to one of them. Brandy Iverson, Gage's wife, dovetail grazer, came down and brought her friend, and on TikTok it was. I said, "Welcome to the weirdness or the weird hood," and you come, but that's me. It's cool to be weird.
I mean, we're all weird. That's why we're all friends, Richard.
That's right. So, what time of year do you take vacation, Brian?
This year, probably November to February.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I don't know what that's going to look like. I think hopefully by July, by the time the bus tour rolls around, everything will be dialed in, systems will be trustworthy, cattle will be trained, and like you'll just literally be coming out and going, "Hey, come on, cows!" Open the gate, and then you're done. Like we still have some training to go right now. we're working on that, but yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get away. I want to be able to come down. Like I've been talking about doing a road trip, like coming to do a podcast on the road. I got to make that happen this late summer, this fall. So that's definitely a goal. Try to swing through Texas. I think I want to try to get up to Montana before it gets cold, if I can get that done.
Big one. I want to go to Canada.
I want to try to make I'm thinking of loops, like kind of loops that I can drive. Like drive 4 to 6 hours would be
And have a break. Yep.
and then be able to, stay somewhere, do a podcast, and then, travel another one, do some visiting, and, just go visit friends. So, excuse me.
The reason I asked, Brian, is when I came up there with you to visit with you, we trade cattle, pick up salt. That was a vacation to me. I have never in my life had a real vacation. Ever.
I would say I took one for the first time this year when I went to Hawaii.
And Shelby and I are going to the Dominican Republic, 4th of July, with her sister, brother, and her brother-in-law, her mom and stepdad. All of us are turning 40 or 60 this year, it seems like. So we're going on a real vacation.
That's awesome.
Never had so much anxiety in my life
Why?
because I'm not working, and evidently I'm a workaholic, Brian. It
Are you a
literally
workaholic or are you just dedicated to your livestock?
no,
Or
it's not about the.
do you have the problem trusting someone else with your livestock?
Oh no, Hunter will be just fine. He'll be back, but no, it's just the fact that I won't be going to work, and that's why my whole life it's just been nothing but work. And when I see that kid of mine actually enjoy a day off, I'm proud of him for not going down, not getting himself in the same mess I'm in where you put your self-worth on your actual work, back on the mental health side of it.
Yeah, there's some of that's some of the reasoning why I wanted to go back to custom grazing is like the anxiety of not being here,
Yep.
my cows getting on the highway, not having water, fence going down, just fire. I mean, random wildfires. Like those happen with annoying goddamn frequency. It seems like I don't. It seems like if there's a lightning strike that starts a fire, it's going to be on my ranch. If there's somebody driving down the road that's going to start a fire, it's going to be on my ranch.
Well, let's be fair, Brian. There's probably only a handful of people that have as much road frontage that you do. Not so much your neighbors, but that listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, to be fair, yeah, I've got. I mean, if you count both sides, I think it's like 12 miles of road frontage.
Right.
It's kind of obnoxious.
Yes.
And maybe not many of the other ranches around have enough grass to burn most of the time. Maybe.
Could be something with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So for all of your listeners, I don't know what you guys call them in your part of the world, but we call them lightning bugs. If you ever want to go see lightning bugs, you need to go to Brian's about the 4th of July weekend and see billions of these bugs that we take for granted living in the city.
And I take for granted because I've lived here my whole life. And oh, hey, lightning bugs are out. Neat.
Every time we talk about Brian Alexander here at the house, Shelby's like, man, all of those lightning bugs. We went out there at dark or dusk. It was about dusk that evening. And you see the terrain behind Brian there, but lightning bugs just seem to fill the valleys. Probably can't have too many bugs like that around with all the pesticides we spray here.
Probably not. And the lightning bugs, I think if they're not here this week, they'll be here really, really soon.
It's getting that time of the year, huh?
Yeah, usually mid-June. We're supposed to have some 100-degree weather, I think, this week, or at least high 90s. So, yeah, they'll show up pretty soon. Yeah, and you're not the first person that's actually said that they're one of their most memorable things about being here was all the lightning bugs.
That wasn't my most memorable. That was Shelby's most memorable.
Okay, fair enough.
Mine was the beaver dam.
Okay.
Because I think if the president wrote a stupid executive order today putting beavers on the endangered species list, we wouldn't have near the water problems or flooding problems we have today. Almost instantly.
I don't think endangered species is the right way. I think he could call it a protected species, a federally protected species.
Yeah, and so if we didn't kill another beaver for the next 10 years and then start putting bag limits on them to control them, I think, well, there would be so many ranchers in the West out of business that it wouldn't be funny. But
how would they go out of business having more water?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They'd have more water, but it wouldn't be pumped to the places they needed it. You start damming up a river or letting the beavers dam up a river. Well, I got to have my water. We got to destroy the beaver dam.
Hey, I get what you're saying. And, the Medicine River that runs behind my house,
Yes.
most places would call that a creek. Here we call it a river. There are beavers that live on it. Like my friend Brendan has property over towards Medicine Lodge. My cousins have property downstream from me. And, Tanya, we've walked, a couple miles downstream. And there's beavers up and down the river.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never seen a beaver dam in the river. Neither has anybody else.
Right.
So, but a lot of us are getting beavers up the draws and up the creeks. Like I was just, I was over on the west side of the ranch actually last week, kind of the northeast part. I call Dugout, place I hadn't been in a couple of weeks or since the winter. And last winter I was there, it was dried up. And I noticed like, okay, there's some evidence there were some beaver dams here, maybe 2 years ago. Well, hopefully when it starts raining and we get some moisture, they'll come back. Well, last week I was trying to go through that area and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can cut through here because there wasn't any water there. It was dry last time I was here, so I should be able to get through there. Nope. Beavers were back.
Hold the water.
Beavers were back and they had a 3-foot dam there. So that where I thought I might have had a crossing, there was a 3-foot lake.
You're going to have to put a snorkel on the rocks, huh?
I just went around. Went around. So, I can cuss having 12 miles of highway running through the ranch.
Makes it kind of nice to port the beavers, huh?
I can just let the beavers have those creeks. I'll just go around. The state's going to keep that road open. And I don't think the beavers are going to be able to dam those culverts up.
Right.
So we're probably okay there for a while.
Exactly.
I do have a problem with the creek, though. Right now I have a problem with the beavers in the creek because Brendan, my client, he sent out a sled to put mineral in.
I've seen you dragging that on social media.
Only thing I can't figure out is how am I going to get it across the creek?
Pontoons.
I think I'm just going to kind of drag it to a narrow part, drop it off, drive all the way around, hook onto it with the winch and winch it across, and then tie onto it and drag it where I want it. I think that's the solution.
Can you not drive across where you're going to drag it across?
I'm not even going to attempt it in the Roxer.
Okay, fair enough.
I know it's deep, I know it's muddy, and I know there's no help to get me unstuck if I get stuck. That it's going to be a self-recovery.
Long walk to the skid steer, huh?
Yep. And then you're up there with 2 pieces of machinery that both got to get back to the shop. Yeah.
Oh, I've been dealing with that. I know how you feel on that one.
Yeah. To try to figure out how to do some things logistically as a one-man show is always an interesting day.
Yeah, you better have some good friends.
I've got some damn good neighbors. Trouble is, they've got their own shit going on, and I don't want to be any more of a pain in the ass than I have to be.
For sure. Man, it's so we're just 100% custom grazing. There's no more Alexander Ranch cattle anymore. Are they all gone?
All gone.
That's awesome.
There are a couple of steers with my tags on them that escaped Roundup. Escaped getting rounded up, not escaped Roundup. Jesus, I don't want people to think I sprayed Roundup.
They got slipped by.
Yeah, we just didn't get them. So they've been kind of running rogue. Put eyeballs on them today for the first time in a while.
That's all right. Let them grow like 9-foot horns and then have a custom hunt.
They're not. They're half black or better.
Gotcha.
One has horns, one doesn't. So, they could go to the CAB program like everything else, I suppose.
That's a big thing. So when you come to Texas, evidently there's a rule somewhere where you have to get longhorn cattle as pasture ornaments. Not Corianis, longhorns. And then you expect them to survive on crap grass. hay because you have dirt lots and wonder why your cows are sick all the time. I've seen a lot of that here lately. This longhorn when fat would probably weigh 1,600 pounds.
It just blows my mind how if you don't want your calves to have health problems, don't calve in the pen.
Right.
Calve in the pasture.
You only have
I
5
won't be able to
acres.
find them. The mom will bring it in eventually. Like, just the mom will find it. She knows where it's at. I get there's people that need to have a birth weight. There's people that just absolutely need to have that information. I'm not that guy.
Me either. I had a big screw up with my last breeding season. Big screw up. We had 103 ewes, Brian. Now I'm going to use 2 rams. Everybody told me you need 50, well, 1 ram per 50. It's okay. I'm going to use 2 rams. They had to walk from your house to your mailbox to get to the ewes.
For anybody listening, this is like not even a football field.
Yeah, that's the only distance they had to travel. Move them out there together. Before they got that far, one of them decided to kill the other one. Just got in a fight, cheap shot, got him, he's dead. Great. So I was talking to the guy we have sheep with, and I said, what are we going to do? I said, I think we ought to just see how many he can breed. So we turned him out with 103. We lost a bunch to coyotes, and we ended up lambing out a potential 79 ewes.
So 80 out of 103 exposed. What was your death loss?
Well, no, I had coyotes kill 27 head.
Oh, okay. So that was off. That's already off.
Yeah,
the
that was my
103
death
already
loss.
reflects that.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So let's just use 80 potentially bred ewes to 1 ram. I only had 2 that did not lamb at all. So they're gone. Everybody else had twins and triplets except for 2. No, I'm sorry. We had 5 singles. Everybody else had twins and triplets, 2 sets of triplets. 1 ram. So I think we have it, and had he not covered all those ewes, it would have been a costly mistake. So I understand the economics of it. But with any breeding stock nowadays, I feel like we're hedging our bets and we're only making our livestock worse for it.
Keep going.
You follow Jericho Lockwood on TikTok.
Yeah, I haven't spent a whole lot of time on TikTok lately, though.
But they have a bull, and his nickname is the King. And when I came up to your house 2 summers ago, that bull was 2 years old, and he was little. He's a heifer bull. He looks really good now.
I'm rolling my eyes at heifer bull.
No, he was bred to be a heifer bull. And they are covering 9-month-old heifers with this bull.
Okay.
They now have 400 babies on the ground and a 4-year-old bull. They turned him out with 130 heifers, 9-month-old heifers, got 103 calves on the ground.
1 bull.
1 bull.
That's
absolutely only 1 bull. So the genetics still exist, but to protect our wallets, we're not letting our genetics express themselves.
Flying out of fear. I mean, look, you hear guys say, like, I've heard everything from 1 in 20 to 1 in 50. Like, and when you tell the 1 in 20 guys that you're like 1 to 50, they freak out.
Yep.
You tell the 1 in 50 guys that you're 1 to 20, And they're like, oh, look at you all fancy pants, Rich McGee over here.
How do you spell chauffeur?
Yeah, how do you spell chauffeur?
And but in reality, how many bulls do you see, would we have seen if we were Comanches? How many bulls would we have seen running with 1,000 cows?
Oh gosh, a lot.
A lot. They
And
had to reproduce.
there would be ones with dominant genetics
Yes.
that would keep the inferior ones from reproducing. There would be, I would feature to guess that like wild populations, like deer, elk, moose, there'll be bachelor herds. There'll be girl herds with a bull, and there'll be a bachelor herd.
Yes.
I don't think,
Crazy.
I suspect bison were very similar.
I think so too. And a hormonally balanced animal is going to whip the shit out of any other bull, ram, buck. That's why bucks fight. They maintain a territory.
Okay. So you asked me if I had any of my own cows left. There's about 25 of them on the ranch. Because two of my clients, Brendan and Tim, both kind of believed in what I was doing enough to buy my livestock and pay a good price.
Right.
That made me feel really good.
Absolutely.
And as a special bonus, I get to see those cows and the calves that I put in them and watch them grow. I just don't have to, and get paid to do it. There was a group of cows in both herds that were slicked off when they got here. All of mine, all the ones that they got from me that were still wearing their Alexander Ranch tags. I mean, they're slick. They're slick, shiny. They came out, hit the grass, and went right on the gain. There ain't a single one of them that remembers me and remembers how to move properly, though.
Hey, man, we had to make a truck ride. We did a data dump, and we did it. Teach us again.
Yep, we're learning again. It's fine. It's fine. I do think the heifers kind of remember where some of the tanks are. The ones that are back where they grew up. The ones that are down on the south side, I don't blame them for not knowing where the hell they're at because they've never been there.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that was bittersweet for you.
At the time, it was just it was just a business decision. More than
Amen to that.
More than anything, it was a business decision. I mean, I saw there was an exit point where I could take the exit and not lose my ass, or I could stay on the interstate and maybe get off later with my shirt or hit a train wreck, but maybe just be able to get off with my shirt. And I said, I don't like people. I mean, I like people, but going out and selling, farmers
right
market,
with you, brother. Right here with you.
Market, that ain't me.
That's for the Adam Ricks of the world.
I don't want to spend my nights, packing beef orders and then packing beef orders taking to town. That's not how I feel the valuable use of my time. So there were a lot of things that were just kind of stacking up as, like exit this business, stay in this business. And spent a lot of time looking at it. And there was also a huge financial thing, like what's winter feed going to cost versus what can I get out of these for right now?
Right.
And how much more cost am I going to put into them for the winter? And who knows what the market's going to be like in 6 or 9 months.
Oh, that's been a big topic around here. I'm trying to stockpile as much hay as I can. Junk. It's stuff that I'm just cleaning up. but I'm trying to put as much in a pile as I can because I want to get back into the cattle market. 2024 is not going to be the year for this guy to get back in the cattle market.
No, we're not at the bottom, but I still don't think we're at the top either.
Yes, and I want to have that hay put away so that when it hits, I can go buy cows. I can get them home, get them cleaned up, and have forage for them because prices are probably going to bottom out our next drought cycle in my area.
Okay.
And I just want to be prepared. That's my big thing is I want to be prepared to take advantage of any opportunities presented. And with the cow prices as high as they are, I wouldn't be in the cow business right now. There's no way.
I mean, when they're paying $3 for calves, that kills everybody's grass-fed beef business.
Yes.
I mean, you take that paycheck right now, or you take that same paycheck in 2 years direct to consumer, because that's how the math worked out on the $3 calves.
Yes.
And fuck me, take the paycheck. I mean, I did.
And that's, I don't know if you met TJ or not, but I said there was still some native pasture around here. And I know a place that's 1,400 acres. It hasn't been plowed in at least the last 120 years, for sure. It's pretty, not as bad as yours, but it's close to the terrain of your place. And so just plowing it doesn't really make sense. So it's still got big blue, little blue, Indian grass, switchgrass, pretty place. And the guy that's got that leased he's running a Coriani Mashona Angus cross.
Probably some good cows in there.
Some good beef. And he's running sheep with them. But
sounds like a guy knows how to make money.
He's a banker, if that makes any sense. But yes, and he is profitable just going to the sale barn with his calves. That's his business model, and that's how he set it up. Low input system. He can make a living off those cattle at the sale barn. The only two pieces of equipment he owns are 2 4-wheelers. He contracts all of his hauling. He doesn't really buy hay. And he's been able to do well enough that he's actually stepping out and buying property because of a low input system. And when he has open cows, they go to the locker, and he's a banker, so he's good with people. He can sell a little beef to add value.
That sounds an awful lot like my plan. Except I'm not a banker.
And the population density isn't swallowing you up.
Right.
Where it is here in North Texas. So he doesn't have to try real hard to market his beef. He just has to manage his inputs. And that's all we can do at the end of the day. Nobody knows how much rain we're going to get.
Yep. Another Macaulay Kincaid quote. I can't control how much I spend, or I can't control how much I make. I can only control how much I spend.
That's right.
And, if that, yeah. I wish I could control the rain. It'd be nice to have, a couple big irrigation pivots. Be able to, just dial that up. I think I need another couple of inches.
Well, you've seen what happened in Dubai, right?
In Dubai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. No, they want to figure out how to control the rain, but they finally get it to rain, but it didn't rain when they needed it.
Well, they were doing cloud seeding.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that they'd been doing it and having it rain in early afternoon every day. And then one day it just said, guess what? It's just going to rain. It was really an absurd amount of rain, wasn't it?
It was everything was flooded.
Yeah.
Flooded. The desert was flooded.
I mean, look, I'm not sure if anything is real anymore after AI and ChatGPT.
Yes.
I see some Elon Musk shit that is completely fake that I was buying it for quite a while.
Where were we at the other night? Starlink came over. Shelby's birthday party. And we were sitting out there having a good old time, and Starlink went over, and they thought it was aliens or something. I was like, it's just Starlink. And they're like, what? And then I got to thinking, I kind of messed with my own head. I was like, why is it traveling? So it would have been from west to east and kind of north to south.
There
And I
are
guess
so many of those things up there
Yes.
on different crisscrossing
Yes.
orbits.
It was tripping with me for a minute.
I remember when he talked about doing that. And of course, he's talking about having, satellites. I get my calculator and I start trying to figure out how many times he's going to have to launch his rocket. And at the time it was, I think he needed to fly Falcon 1,200 times to lift all the Starlink satellites. That was on the V1s, and they made them a little smaller and a little smaller, but they're still not packing that that much more. That's
a lot of diesel fuel.
Yeah. Well, you screwed up. You got me talking about SpaceX. I don't think anybody knows this, but I'm a huge SpaceX nerd.
Oh, I know you're a nerd, Brian.
Well, I mean, I'm a nerd. That's pretty obvious. But SpaceX, Elon Musk, Starship. That's kind of another one of my nerddoms. I actually stayed home Thursday morning to watch Starship launch. I got up early and I stayed home to watch Starship launch through the whole reentry sequence. I mean, it's just over an hour, and then I went to work because you didn't watch it. Did you even know he flew last week?
I get to go watch them test them all the time.
Oh,
Meridian.
Yeah. He's got engine test out there.
We got a customer that has a site up on the hill, and you can sit and watch everything perfectly from the customer's facility.
Hey, well, if you don't know, I mean, it was 4 days ago, and this comes out next week. So if you haven't he launched a rocket last week. It was really cool. He did everything he said he was going to. The rocket hit all their targets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're launching basically the largest space vehicle ever launched. They launch it, they hot stage it, which means they light the engines on the Starship while the booster's still under thrust. So you got 6 rocket engines at the top of the booster. It's pretty cool to watch the cameras. And then they flip the booster and light up 13 engines to bring it back. It comes back down, then they light up the engines again to do the landing burn. And they did a simulated landing. They even had a boat close enough to get footage. And it shows this rocket coming down, standing on its tail right on the water. They could have caught that thing if they would have flown it back. That just blows my mind.
So
they're going to catch that thing. They're going to catch that rocket.
How did you pay attention to the build? Were they on time and close to budget with that build?
I am a SpaceX nerd. Okay. That is one of the, my YouTube feed. That's what I watch. I have a couple of different channels that I watch that give me my SpaceX recap of the week. Right. So I know what's been going on down there. I think this was ship 29, booster 11. Those ships they built that over a year ago. They've got 7 or 8 more ready to go, just getting ready to shove them through testing and plus whatever they're building.
Well, the reason I ask is because I really want to goad you with this next question.
Okay.
So, Lockheed Martin, right here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
They have a $64 billion annual income. No, $65 billion annual income. You may have to fact check me.
Kind of doesn't matter at that point.
Only $4 billion is from anybody other than me and you, the taxpayers are the number one income source for that company.
Well, they're a defense contractor.
Exactly. But they've never been out of business, ever. So we've never been in peacetime or never looked at anybody like Elon Musk to build something for us. Even though
keep going. Keep going.
Even though every new jet that has been designed or tested has been behind schedule and over budget.
That's because it's a government program.
It's designed for waste. But yes.
And that's just a symptom of the system. I mean, like, say it with me, everybody. We live in a techno-fascist oligarchy. It's a tiny little club. We're not in it.
We're not in it.
Okay.
We are not in it.
We are definitely not in the club. And, you know, the CNN let's talk about how the economy is doing, the stock market. You know, the stock market's up. The American, you know, the economy is doing so great. People are doing great. No, they're not. People are suffering.
No, it's
People
hard.
on Main Street are, it doesn't matter if we're talking about Main Street, New York City, or we're talking about Main Street, Dimmitt, Texas, right? It's hard. People on both sides, left and right, like everybody's looking at the choice and going, really? And yeah, it's just, it's getting so hard to make it. They keep piling it. Man, I'm rambling. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. It's been a
fine.
long day.
It's fine. Taxation stuff.
Yes, taxation is theft.
Well, I was talking to a buddy of mine.
Term limits and insider trading, like that.
So there's an app. So some guys from California made it that only tracks the politicians' investments.
I've heard of that.
I need an investment account so that I can start. I want to buy that app. I'm gonna make Hunter do it because he's really into all that stuff. So as soon as he gets back, I'll let you know what it is when we get it set up. And I only want the portfolio of Nancy Pelosi. If she trades for something, I want the same trade.
I remember what I was going to say about Elon Musk. I mean, as cool as he is, smart guy. You notice the industries he's involved in have heavy government support.
Yes.
When he was doing Solar City out in California, they had huge support from the California government, huge support from the federal government. He made a lot of money at Solar City. And when those subsidies were starting to go away, he got out of that position. And that's when he started focusing on Tesla. Because why?
EVs,
EV tax credits. I mean, he wasn't one of the guys that was campaigning for it. I don't think he was putting any money towards politicians. Maybe he does. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass. It seems like he's more of the type of person to see the system and build and devise a better way to take advantage of it.
What they say, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right. But I also don't think it's like, he's not the one, he's not in the group of guys that's going to Congress and saying, hey, these are the laws we want you to pass.
He's damn sure smart enough to hire the right guys, though.
Yes. I mean, but he's definitely seen, you know, where there's federal money going, whether it's the solar panels, electric cars, or the space program. Elon's not, he's not in it purely for profit, purely out of because this is what he wants to do. If there wasn't government money involved, I don't think he'd be in those three industries.
He's an entrepreneur. He's trying to make as much money as humanly possible, as we all are trying to, in our own little way.
I would disagree with the characterization that he's just trying to make money. I mean, I feel like he's got some pretty deep conviction about trying to get people off the planet, and money is just a means to that end.
Well, it's a tool, yeah, but yeah, he knows. Yes, and I've heard the debates and all that. I don't want to leave the planet. But yes, I hope somebody does, and I hope it's somebody I can trust once they get.
So in 10 years, when Elon's got his Mars colony, like when he's trying to get it up and running, if he called you as like, Richard, yo, I need somebody to go to Mars and manage sheep and build soil. You're the guy. I hear you're the guy. You're the expert. And I want you to go to Mars and regeneratively graze sheep in a dome.
Nope,
Are you going?
can't do it.
You wouldn't go?
I can't. I won't. That's not. Does that has? I have zero interest in that.
Really?
I don't want to do it. And the reason this is, I would send Hunter. I would tell him I got a mini me that knows everything I know. He probably wants to go. And that's why I work so hard, Brian, and everybody out there listening. Is there was nobody out there working to make sure I was given something or had something to take over. And that boy is the reason I bust my ass every day. Is one day I want him and his kids to know they're taken care of. And agriculture, regenerative agriculture, has been the tool for me to deliver that to him. And I'm content. I love growing grass. I love microbiology and studying and learning, but it was all there was a reason behind it. And I'm getting closer to that goal every day. And it's guys like yourself and everybody we've talked about that have encouraged me and talked to me and don't give up. And we've all had our hard days. We've had a lot of hard days, all of us. And sometimes you just got to be reminded of that goal. So I could care less about grazing sheep, to be honest. I would love to have a herd of farmer cows and go dump them a bucket of corn every day just to get to look at them. I'm not going to have that herd, but as deep as I am into this, and as much as I've learned, it was all for a purpose. I've loved it. I love the nerdhood. I love it. But I'm just saying, had it not, I would have never gotten this deep had I not been trying to achieve a goal. And grazing sheep on Mars was never that goal.
Fair enough.
So,
So compared to when we met 2 years ago, how far off from where you thought you'd be are you?
well, I'm way away from cattle, because I could never cash flow them. But that's what I thought I wanted was cattle. And I know you got to feed them to have good beef. I'm not influenced by a lot of people's opinions anymore. People telling me, well, it'll never work that way. Well, I don't care. I'm going to try it. Or that's never going to work. Or you can never run 250 head of sheep. Oh, I'll just build a double decker trailer. Like Brian, I want to come run 1,000 head of sheep across your ranch one time. Like those are the goals I have. I would have never had those visions or goals or even thought it was possible. Brian, I've got right now 140 head of sheep on 3 acres, moving them.
Okay.
Like that's a lot. But once they're all grouped up, you're like, oh, there's nothing here. But just seeing what's happening, like, even though you guys told me it was possible and everything else, I didn't believe it. I was like, they're full of shit. Like you can't have that much grass turn around this quickly. I can show you pictures of that place out there that was nothing but sand and rocks 2 years ago. And there's grass growing there.
Here's what proves how quickly it comes back. Go mow something. Like, how fast does your yard come back? People, how often do you have to mow your frickin' grass at your house? All right, look, I'm not talking about you special snowflakes that graze your front yard with cows at 1,000,000 pounds an acre. Okay,
That's what I want.
Trevor
That's the goal.
Burian.
That's a goal.
The,
Special
the,
snowflake Trevor.
the normal people that cut their grass with a mower. If you haven't cut your grass in 12 days because it's hot and dry, guess what? We're in a drought and you should go move your cows.
Or get
If
rid
you-
of them if you don't have anywhere to move them to.
If you have to cut your grass every other day because it rains so much, like watching the grass as it regrows after a mowing should give you some insight into how your grass and the pasture is responding after a rain and a graze.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I have so much thatch left over from the winter ryegrass that it has slowed the warm season growth because I was late grazing it. I have to change my breeding program so I can be back on that place in time for the cool season. Like, it's problems I never thought I would have.
I was just discussing with Tim last week, about he's pretty committed to, having a calving window. Okay, I get that. That either means we're coming to grass late after he's got all his calves and work his calves here, or we come at the rump of winter, feed him here for a couple of weeks, get him off the lot ration that they're on, which, Tim, it was too much corn, buddy. There was a lot of corn in the manure for a couple of days. I mean,
You have volunteer corn growing on the ranch now?
not quite. Maybe we'll see. But I mean, whatever. They looked great. I mean, they were obviously getting good ration because they looked great when they got here. But no, we'll just have to feed them a little bit. Probably come in March 15, March 30th, something like that, and try to shoot to calve April 1st, April 10th, something like that. I think. It's a little less of a winter break for me. Kind of interferes a little bit with burning season, but that's what he wants to do. That's what fits his program. And I think it's the right move. So I'm going to make it work because I want to keep him as a client and I want to keep that relationship. And I think it works. So
That's awesome. So we were talking about Hunter earlier, and the coolest thing I've taken away from his experience so far is they're not worried about their sheep having water.
okay.
Evidently, there is so much moisture in Scotland that the sheep can get its entire intake of water from the grass it eats. I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, for a guy that's grown up in the plains,
Right.
that does not compute.
And unless they're lactating ewes, they're not worried about making sure they have water. Blows me away.
That doesn't compute.
Think about all the places you could graze if you weren't worried about water.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
amazing.
I could get a lot of density in a lot of places that cows won't go right now
Yes.
just because
absolutely.
it's isolated and I can't get water there.
Yep. So
It's-
it's getting late, but I want to throw something at you, and I don't need a response. But Hobbs and I were talking about frequency. Having been on a submarine, I know VHF, ULF, all the different frequencies. So what did man use to create the first sound or horn, if you will? What do all of our animals have on their heads and feet that could help transmit or not transmit or receive a frequency? And we know that fungi communicate via a frequency.
Okay. Keep going.
Talk to Hobbs about it. Talk to Kinsey about it. We've all kind of bounced it around differently. without man's interference, I think the livestock know more about what's going on with the land than man ever will, because they're genetically programmed to be able to be a part of that communication cycle.
Okay. I'm buying what you're selling.
And it's the horns and hooves that make it possible. I don't think we as humans can listen as well as livestock or animals in general can, because we're not as connected to that communication channel. And that's my nerdness today, and something I've been thinking about quite a long time.
Like I'm buying what you're selling. I don't. It's hard to poke holes in it.
There's no real data, but
there's a connection between things in nature.
yes, larger
Especially
than we will ever understand.
Especially if that nature has been unmessed around with for a while. Hasn't been a lot of fungicide, herbicide, pesticide. Things are like allowed to have a natural life cycle. There's a rhythm, there's an interconnection, there's an energy, and there's communication. And cows' senses are pretty underappreciated.
I agree.
They don't see crap. I mean, they can see movement. How's a cow finding her food?
Yes.
She's finding her food with her nose. She's detecting threats with her ears. So you pay attention to where her ears are going. That's what the cow's paying attention to.
I'm with you.
But it makes so much sense that a cow finds what it's looking for through its nose. That's how it knows what plants to eat. I mean, and taste and smell are very connected senses as well. We look at a dog. Like everybody knows how awesome a dog's sense of smell is, like especially a bloodhound. You know, they can be trained to smell anything through anything. A shark can smell what? 1 drop of blood in a cubic mile of water or some ridiculousness.
Yeah, I don't know, but yes, you're absolutely right. And
you look at the nose on a cow. I mean, we look at a skull. There are just enormous passages, huge areas in there, in the nasal passages. They're not just there as voids. I'm sure they're covered with sensors and nerves.
the tongue, the beef tongue.
Yeah.
Look, it's massive. It's almost as big as their heart. And that's where all their taste receptors would be. You gotta get it in there to their receptor. But just going back to the whole frequency or sound, imagine hearing, because humans can hear that frequency of 1,000,000 pounds per acre, all licking, chewing, and stepping in unison. Does that trigger some type of, via sound or whatever we're going to call it, some kind of response from the biology around that affected area?
Well, putting on my reductionist scientist hat real quick. If the theory is sound, then you should be able to make a recording, isolate the sound, and play it back.
The sound is only one piece of the entire system, though. And that's, we as humans in reductionist theories, we try to take all the variables away, and that's all we have is variables.
Nature is all variables. Nature is variable.
So
right.
Hobbs said something to close it out. And where do all the major sporting events take place in the world? On a freshly manicured lawn.
Yes. Or
Or
AstroTurf, but yeah, generally nice fresh green grass.
all the city parks, fresh green grass, nice and manicured. Humans desire to be behind a severe grazing event. Golf courses, baseball, football, soccer, city park.
We're kind of hardwired to like that.
Yes.
To like that nice green manicured look.
And if all of us could get back to grazing, not just kicking cattle in a pasture, I think as a human species, our anxiety, depression, everything would lessen because we would have that fresh grazed event right in front of us anytime we went outside. That's
a good visual. I like it. Good place to end. Where can people find you, my man?
Really just Facebook and TikTok, and show up at the house. But no, it's Hat Creek Farms on Facebook, and I think it's Hat Creek Farms on TikTok.
Okay, I'll look it up, and I'll make sure we get links in the show notes.
So appreciate it, Brian.
Tanya wanted me to tell you hello and give Shelby a hug for me, bud.
I will. And I know we talked about a steer at one time, and I just now got a truck that I would trust to drive to Kansas. But I'm hoping you found a home for him.
Yes, he has a home.
Good.
Hey, thanks for your time, man. Take it easy.
Take care, man. Later.
See you, gang. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Ranching Reboot. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more ranchers like you who are ready to reboot the industry. And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and fellow ranchers. Together, we can build a more sustainable future for ranching. Until next time, happy trails.